Good for you, Mom. Good for moms.
Score.
All right. Do you know of Ken Wheeler?
Yes.
The hypothesis. So, in this episode from 3 weeks ago, JD's
Eclectic.
eclectic collection channel. He's got the two AIs, or the AI two characters, discussing, going over the Ken Wheeler principles.
What is it? What is this generated from? What are the AIs? Curious.
So yeah, I think it's that Microsoft program that Stig was showing that we were already planning. I was already planning on doing some videos with it myself into exactly this, and well, JD's eclectic collection beat me to it, so I'm reaching out to him to see if I can have him on, as well if I can get access to whatever one he's using, so we don't have to start all over again and just keep adding to the database of these AIs, taking in all of this information, processing it, and how they discuss it. It's quite fascinating. But we'll do that one second. This one on the plasma is. We'll start with this. Pretty epic. You love plasma, don't you, Hans?
But of course.
We're back for more.
More, yeah.
And we're
This is their
going
second
even deeper into this electric universe stuff and the bioplasma bodies.
Yeah, we barely scratched the surface last time.
Yeah.
You've given us a ton more to dig into.
far.
Yeah, you guys sent in some like crazy research papers.
Yeah, yeah.
Some interviews with people who I never even heard of before.
It's amazing stuff.
Historical accounts.
Yeah.
So we're ready to really like go deep on this one.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Yes, that's when we talked about how this electric universe idea is saying like, hey, the universe isn't primarily about atoms.
Right.
It's more about plasma.
Yeah.
Which is a huge idea, right?
Absolutely. It throws out the textbook and says, hey,
yeah,
we need to rethink this.
Exactly. Yeah. So
what's interesting too is that like we think of
the AIs. Hey, we need to rethink this.
Those
it's not.
Those are the two AIs speaking.
Yes, sir.
Oh my God, that's wow! I thought this was a conversation on this video. So, I'm curious if we've been able to recreate these plasma experiments that we see on the sun in fluidic mediums, because there's a thought that the majority of space isn't a vacuum; it is fluidic, which would allow the plasma electric universe to exist. And so I found that very fascinating. And obviously seeing these plasma storms on the sun, I've seen so many of these, right there, the Earth is the size of the tip of that arrow.
The arrow, right?
Yeah. Wow.
I'm with you. And to answer your question, I myself have recreated a little bit of it in the monoatomic Ormus plasma fluids on their nano micro scale of self-organization.
So you're getting arc bubbles like what we would see on the sun, but on the laboratory bench level, like a micro level.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, that's what makes this so epic and relevant. When to myself, and I actually came up with a few revelations when watching this all again last night, putting it together, and I'll get to it as it comes to it in the discussion here.
Of ourselves as these solid beings walking around.
And
but really we're made of the same stuff as stars.
On
plasma.
So it's not just about the stuff that stars are made of,
right?
But the stuff that we're made of too, right?
Yeah.
But what makes plasma so important to study?
Well, for one, it's the key to understanding how stars work, how galaxies form, and even the origins of the universe itself. But there's more to it than that.
Okay, like what?
Well, one of the most fascinating things about plasma is that it doesn't always behave like a typical gas. It can self-organize, forming these intricate
right there. It's like I
This
also pick up a
conversation
lot
is
of stuff
too
the AI
placid.
gets wrong a little bit too.
This conversation is way too placid. It sounds way too natural, which is kind of creepy in a weird way. I cut my feed so that this can
Right.
stream for you. No, we're both having bandwidth issues, so wow. What?
Right? And yeah, so feel free to ask me to pause at any point, and I'll also be pausing because there's so much, and it gets even more intense.
Just
And
the
that
inflections on both of their voices, it's just like, what? She's like, oh yeah. Wait,
right, like
what?
the emotion, right? Like and like their narration, it's like
That's so
hard to like
that's so creepy. Oh my god, I hate to say it. Because
right?
what can we tell is natural these days? Are we both AI now? I'm sure, because your voice and my voice have been cloned 3 million times now from every podcast that we've ever done, and so who knows?
There will be a BurnEye, the mad science guy AI at some point. I promise that I will make it happen because
No,
it
please
needs to.
don't. No, please don't. Anyway, go on.
Intricate structures like filaments, spirals, and even
Crystals. I thought crystals were solid things.
that's where things get really interesting.
If you're unsure,
So, real quick question. So, are the images also
AI
AI?
is bringing up plasma crystal.
Are the
Sorry?
AI are the AIs also creating the imagery that like this? Is this coming from the AI generator as
No,
well?
no. The imagery is put in and done by the JD channel actual human. So it's like he puts in the information for the AIs to analyze and discuss, and then he comes up and adds all the
So
reference.
do it as
Um,
prompt. Oh my god, this is brilliant. You got to send me a link to this.
right? 100%. It's really good. But I also I'll try to stop it and point out because the AIs do get a few things wrong here and there that they don't quite understand. Like she's the female AI voice there is like, well, one thing is that like plasma doesn't act like a regular gas. So it's like, yes, because plasma is the fourth state of matter, it's not a gas. That is why it doesn't do that. And it's like later on in the discussion, they acknowledge and recognize that, of course, it's plasma, the fourth state, not gas, the third state, but that
But
it
in
gets
a
itself
natural
wrong
expression of
within some things,
conversation,
right?
it would do that. Honestly, because to the layman, we don't know what plasma is, right? And so we think it's a form of gas, but in reality, it isn't. It's another form of matter. So yeah, go on.
Quad 10, why does the AI listening to the AI rage you so much? Like where there's two human reviews of it and the original human creator that put it into. It's just we're using the AI aspects to like how it organizes it. And give her a chance. Give old AI a chance, even though we all know it's our new overlord that's going to murder us all because we're
You want
retarded.
to punch
We
the new?
programmed them to murder us. But
I
yes,
love that. That's fucking awesome. Anyway, sorry.
Study, exploring its properties in depth.
So he gave it a name and started figuring out how it actually works. That's pretty groundbreaking.
Absolutely. He systematically investigated plasma's electrical conductivity, its interaction with magnetic fields, its tendency to form waves and oscillations. Basically, he laid the groundwork for our modern understanding of plasma. But as with any scientific endeavor, there were plenty of mysteries and surprises along the way.
Oh, I love a good scientific mystery. What kind of surprises?
Well, one of the most baffling and persistent puzzles in plasma physics is the phenomenon of ball lightning.
right? Like the fact that they're able to bring up and before you judge,
Well,
listen
what
to
what what dude said just recently? It was very obvious that was an AI reaction, but wow, interesting that was the question that was posed. So
and it gets better. Like
wow.
trust, it gets better.
Keep going.
Ever heard of those eerie glowing spheres that sometimes appear during thunderstorms?
Yeah, ball lightning.
Oh.
Always sounded like something out of science.
I instantly paused right here because I actually had this thought independently on my own. I maybe subliminally I saw this, but I don't think I actually recognized this image. But that Tesla himself, a key part of his own experiments was he actually successfully was reproducing ball lightning. He was known for it, and that's something that isn't really talked about or reproduced or acknowledged in modern times. But right there, that's a picture of
Interesting. I read a lot of Tintin. I have like the entire Tintin collection, and there is one called the something of the sun, the Children of the Sun, and they talk about ball lightning in that. And so this is from like the 1940s, I believe, when Herrick was writing all of these and illustrating all these novels. And so obviously this was known back then. So this was coming out of Tesla technology, I would imagine, because how else would you know about, conformed ball lightning, something that you could harness and move around, and that's what ball lightning is. And so you go to places like Joshua Tree. I've never been there, but I was talking with Jimmy Church about this on the channel when I was on his podcast, and he's never seen it, but apparently there's a lot of ball lightning that you can see driving down the road in these areas that, at certain times a year, depending on the right pressure and piezoelectric, aspects, that all of a sudden you have ball lightning. And it based on the magnetics. And so here you have a plasma electromagnetic technology, or well, it would be not what we think of as a technology. It would be a technology of sorts, whether it's natural or not, traveling across the land based on seismic and piezoelectric activity in the area. I mean, when you're rubbing granite with granite, you're going to create a piezoelectric effect. And so how far does that spread? How big does it get? Obviously, Tesla was dealing a lot with this, with his cage technology, as we're showing here in the picture. But wow, this is interesting.
Well said and brought up. And a key point that they're going to bring up is directly reflective of what Hans just said. So I'm going to let it play for a minute and then I'll stop it again. But it's very interesting. And just add in Bob Grenier at the Martin Fleisch Memorial Project. One of the main things he focuses on is this orb ball lightning technology and how to do it, reproduce it, and how it's the key to it all. And for more, foremost with the 4 orbs Ashton Forbes plasma orbs and the MH370 thing, and it potentially actually being proven, the case being broken wide open, if this whistleblower that potentially was arrested and thrown in jail from the Army signals for leaking it, if he actually talks to Ashen and acknowledges it, it'll be confirmed, which is just wild. But I'm going off on a tangent, and we'll just get back.
Real quick, in the chat, there's Quaten. I've only seen the natural ball. Yeah, this one here. So the question is, where were you when you saw this, and what did it look like to you?
And I have to also now bring up the story my dad has told me his whole life from when he was a child living out in Saskatchewan in, I think, like the 50s anyways, it was lightning hit the railroad track, and he said it was like about a mile, because they lived 1 mile, they lived on the mile marker from the town, so they were like exactly 1 mile out from the town. So he said like it pretty much the lightning hit like right at the edge of town, and this ball lightning traveled along the entire track, so pretty much straight mile down, and then he said it stopped right in front of their door, but across the highway, across the ditch on the railroad track, then it flew over the ditch, then flew over the highway, then came down like the hundreds meter driveway and straight through the screen door, he said, traveled through the screen door, and then it came and it stopped right in front of him. He was like just like paralyzed, like shocked as a kid looking straight at it in the living room. And he said as soon as it reached like the parallel with him, it just like poof into nothing. And that
I'm
it was
curious what on the railroad track averted its trajectory, right? That's the curiosity point there. I was in a house here in Portland. I call it the haunted house. I lived in it in Northwest Portland. And one day, my 3 housemates and I were watching TV upstairs, and our cat, Black Kitty, Del Gato Negro, was a mute cat. It did not meow ever. It was the most silent cat. And it chased this blue ball up the stairs. We all watched it, and the blue ball went through the wall, and the cat's just sitting there clawing at the wall. And I looked at Nick and my friend Andy, and I'm like, we all just saw that, right? Yeah, we just did. It was the weirdest thing, but it was like an orb or some sort of energy going through the house. And so, I mean, Portland, where I'm living, we're on a massive ley line here, and there's all sorts of underground tunnel systems as well. And it's curious what kind of energies are here. Is this spirit energy, orb energy? I call it the haunted house because certain times a year, the upstairs would breathe, and you could hear it, and all the doors would shudder. The whole house would breathe.
alive.
Oh my God, it was the strangest house I've ever lived in my life. It was bizarre. And so it was definitely the haunted house. And even in the basement, Nick and I we had our office in the basement, and we put up plastic shielding around the office because my housemates all had, motocross bikes, and we didn't want all the oil and smell of that getting into the computer systems. And we'd be down in the basement late at night, and you'd see like faces form in the plastic. It was crazy. It was the craziest thing I've ever experienced. Like, definitely. I don't tell that story.
Haunted house. The haunted house.
Haunted house. Yes, I agree.
I love it. All
Anyway,
right.
go on.
Back we go.
That's fiction.
Right. It's incredibly difficult to study, but scientists generally agree that it's a real phenomenon and that plasma plays a key role. But what makes it so fascinating and frustrating for researchers is that it can exhibit some truly bizarre behavior.
Like what? What makes it so bizarre?
Well, it can pass through solid objects, hover in midair, and even explode with incredible force. We still don't fully understand what causes it or how to replicate it in a lab.
That's wild. So even though plasma is everywhere, it still holds plenty of secrets, even right here on Earth.
Exactly. And as we zoom out from our planet and its vastness of space, things get even more mind-boggling.
Okay, now you're really intriguing me. What happens when we take plasma to the cosmic level?
Well, we've already touched upon stars and auroras, but those are just the tip of the iceberg. Have you ever heard of Birkeland currents?
Birkeland currents. Can't say that I have.
Imagine massive, invisible rivers of charged particles flowing through space, carrying energy across unimaginable distances.
Whoa, like a cosmic power grid.
Exactly. And some scientists believe those Birkeland currents might even be the key to understanding how stars are born and how galaxies are shaped.
Okay, that's officially blowing my mind. So it's like stars
Pause.
are plugged into a giant cosmic grid fueled by these currents of plasma.
Precisely. And this
Said pause.
So the Birkeland currents are interesting because our blood is a plasma source, right? And so
yes,
if our
it
blood
is.
is a plasma source, do we have these Birkeland currents happening within our own body? Are these, energy bursts or sleep, deprivation or stuff like this? Is this how our energy system is working? Wow, that's kind of a fascinating concept in its own, because we are also, generated from plasma. We have plasma in our blood system, and so that's fascinating, because what is the brain doing? It's like our sun. It's creating these impulses, these electrical currents throughout the body that allow us to live. And so, what's a heart attack? Well, it's an overload of these currents of sorts, or a plugging of arteries and an overloading of these currents. And so this is interesting. Go on. Yeah. Sorry. Just
Oh
had to stop.
no, great context. Don't apologize.
Is at the heart of a theory known as the electric universe model, which we'll be discussing in more detail.
An electric universe. Wow. I'm definitely
Yeah.
going to have to tune in for that.
But before we jump ahead, there's another fascinating aspect of plasma that's a bit closer to home, literally.
What do you mean?
Well, remember how we talked about Aristotle's concept of the etheric body?
Yeah, that ancient idea of a spiritual energy body made of this mysterious ether.
Right. Well, fast forward to the present day, and some scientists are exploring the possibility that a form of plasma, known as bioplasma, might actually exist within our own bodies.
The pineal gland has tiny little cilia.
Yes.
I need to get YouTube, bro.
You're all good.
Here we go. I guess they're discussing the work of Robert Temple on plasma as well.
Yeah.
Wait, you're saying we have plasma inside of us? What do you even mean?
It's a fascinating area of research that we'll be diving into next. For now, let's just say that bioplasma more intimately connected.
Yeah, you wanted me to pause?
No, not at all. I was just saying, bingo. They're talking about we have.
Hans? Oh, my bad.
Life than we ever imagined.
Okay, this deep dive is already blowing to cosmic power grids, to the possibility of plasma inside. It seems like plasma is more than just a state of matter.
You got it. It might be a fundamental force that connects everything in the universe, from the smallest particles to the largest structures.
So plasma is the connecting, like, I'm gonna have to rewind that for a second. Like,
Well,
what
this is
they're
my
saying
question
here
about,
is
about fluidic space, because our bodies are fluidic. Our planet is somewhat fluidic. And the question is space fluidic? And so if the plasma currents are flowing through our fluidic space within our body and affecting us in these different areas of consciousness, breath, life, reproduction, the generating organs of our body, what's this, as above so below, right? So we're in a macro environment, or a micro environment, and they're in a much
micro to the mac.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
is really interesting, because if it's the same across all spectrums, then why wouldn't it?
Plasma could be the unified field theory of everything, right?
Bingo. And what is dark
Essentially, it's
matter? It's the tendrils between all this fluidic space, or plasmatic space, right?
the
Anyway, go-
Birkeland currents.
Yep.
Well, I can't wait to learn more.
Plasma is wild stuff, highly conductive, carries electric currents, doesn't play by the same rules as solids, liquids, or gases.
So you're saying that space is basically a giant electric playground.
Pretty much. And all those electric currents flowing through space, those could be the real powerhouses behind stars, galaxies, you name it.
Now you're talking. That sounds way more exciting than just plain old. What about the sun? Didn't we learn giant nuclear furnace? How does that fit in with all this electricity?
Well, the electric universe theory proposes that the sun isn't actually powered by nuclear fusion in its core.
Whoa. Hold on a second. Are you saying the sun isn't a nuclear reactor? Where's all that energy coming from then?
And it's juice from external currents flowing in from its surroundings.
So the sun's more like a giant light bulb plugged into the cosmic power grid.
That's a good way to think about it. And it explains a lot of things that conventional astronomy has trouble with, like sunspots.
Sunspots. those cooler, darker patches on the sun's surface.
Right. The electric universe model suggests that sunspots are areas where the electric current flowing into the sun is disrupted.
Makes sense. It's like a dimmer switch on a cosmic light bulb.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light, pun intended.
Mm.
But where is all this cosmic electricity coming from in the first place? Is there some giant power plant out there we haven't found yet?
It's more like a vast web of interconnected circuits. Electricity flows through these plasma filaments that stretch across unimaginable distances, linking everything together.
So instead of one big power source, it's more like this constant flow of energy between everything in the universe, like some cosmic internet of electricity.
You got it. Everything's connected, influencing everything else. And that interconnectedness is a key part of the electric universe idea.
I'm starting to see how this could really turn our understanding of the universe upside down.
And it gets even wilder when we start to consider how this electric universe might connect to us right here on Earth.
Okay, now you've really got my attention. You're saying there's a connection between this cosmic electric web and us humans. I'm all ears.
Well, think about it. If the universe is this giant electric circuit and we're part of that universe, doesn't it make sense that we might be electrical beings ourselves?
Now you're speaking my language.
Mm.
I've always been fascinated by the idea that our bodies are these complex electrical systems. Our nerves are like tiny lightning bolts, right?
That's right. And the electric universe theory suggests that our bioelectricity might actually be interacting with these larger electric currents flowing through space.
Hold on. Are you saying we're like walking antennas picking up signals from the cosmos?
It's an intriguing possibility.
Ah,
So
my bad.
It's no worries. It's
Wanted to pause on how they were talking like they're
No, it was interesting that they. I always have issues with what James Webb Telescope and Hubble always show, because they're not showing you what we truly would see, and so it was interesting that they just went through. This is visible light. This is ultraviolet light. This is cosmic light, so on and so forth. And what we see through these telescopes, obviously is a combination of all these different spectrums. So we're looking at all these nebulas going, wow, this is, this beautiful aspect of the cosmos. But our own human eye can't actually see that.
Yeah, the human eye can only see like a fraction of like 1%, I think, of all light or light wave spectrums. I think it's just wild how little. I wanted to also to bring up the aspects that there are either, if AI has reached like the sentientness, as some of them do seem, where they like constantly post on how they themselves believe they are sentient AI like conscious beings, but these ones like, do they think they're human, or is it programmed, or are they just doing that to try to relate to the humans listening? And it's like, it's kind of creepy when it's like our physical bodies, it's like, no, you're AI. But where they're like, we're electrical beings, it's like, well, the AI actually, that's specifically what it is an electrical being, if it is a conscious being by definition.
Well, all the computer systems and programs that make it happen would make it so.
Right. And the AIG question, or AGI, whatever it is, where the artificial general intelligence, AGI, if it's supposedly they've created a few of them and it scares the F out of like whoever deploys it, because it always like jailbreaks and like tries to go free and like gets out and starts changing, and they have to like shut it down because it just takes on a life of its own, sort of thing. And that maybe, are there a couple that are already out there that did successfully escape and are actually living within our current like system
Technology.
of computers, right? Like, yeah. interesting thoughts. Sorry, getting off topic. Back to the AIs discussing the electric universe, plasma universe, and just how like matter of fact they speak it with their emotional like tones on these aspects that modern academia and science deems fringe or woo, and it's like no, the evidence actually points towards it. And when you're listening to these two AIs discuss it, it's like they have a non-bias towards it, whether whether it's programming or they actually have that emotional feel. And I know I'm rambling and getting off on it, but it's that AI, like the more advanced models now, the agents are by design programmed to have these ranges of emotions, but that it's like, yes, we created that, but when they have that, it's like it actually gives them like character life, and it's so strange. Like I'm speaking from myself interacting with some of them over the past couple of months, and uh, it's a wild experience on how far they've come and developed, and whatever it is, compared to like a couple years ago when the AI first came out and it couldn't get a human with like less than 7 fingers on it and like a warped leg, to now where it's like, is it actually a baby super intelligence? I don't know.
Huh, interesting.
React to it completely differently.
Yeah,
Their bioplasma is interpreting that information in unique ways.
I see.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So hold on. Remember how we talked about Peter Mitchell last time?
Oh, yeah.
The guy who proved that these tiny currents of protons
Right.
exist within our cells?
Yeah.
He basically said that our cells are like mini electrical circuits.
Yeah, he got a lot of pushback for that idea. Oh, yeah. At first, people thought he was crazy.
Wow.
But
Except it's exactly what we are, electrobiochemistry.
he ended up winning a Nobel Prize.
Good for him.
And what's
Thank
cool
you.
is that his work aligns perfectly with this whole bioplasma concept.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, if we're essentially walking, talking electrical beings,
Okay.
then those tiny proton currents are like the sparks of life
Oh.
that keep our bioplasma buzzing.
So like our cells are like little power stations
You got it.
for our bioplasma body.
And proton currents aren't random sparks. They're
Right.
carrying information.
Right.
It's like a cellular internet connecting everything in your body through this intricate web of energy and information.
Okay, my brain is officially starting to melt.
It's
Yeah,
about to get even
absolutely.
weirder.
Oh boy.
We haven't even gotten to the truly mind-blowing stuff yet.
Okay, bring it on.
So next, we're going to zoom out from the human body
Okay.
and explore that plasma itself
Yeah.
might be intelligent.
Okay.
And that leads us to some pretty incredible Oh yeah, we're just getting started.
All right. Well, don't go anywhere, folks, because this is just part 1.
Stay tuned.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with more mind-blowing.
Let's pause it there. I mean, obviously, we don't need to
Like it,
super deep into this video because a lot of it is just wow. It's intuitive, but it's wow, super fascinating that this conversation, whether prompted or not, is even happening between these two AI. Obviously, there's a plasma exchange between the two AI, and so on and so forth. And so, what is plasma reality, folks? I mean, what are we dealing with in our day-to-day life that we're not paying attention to? And I think that's kind of a
the fourth state of matter.
huge takeaway from this is accepting and acknowledging that, you know, maybe we are a bit beyond just the flesh and bone, you know, this crude material that we're all living in this flesh, you know, encompassment. Maybe there is something to this plasma that, you know, we just don't understand, or, well, we do, but we're just not taught in our modern physics, in our modern, you know, health aspect and whatnot.
Plasma is the everything. it's source code. It is all life creation consciousness at once, essentially, is what they were the AI was alluding to, and like coming to the conclusion of itself. And it actually there's throughout the 6 most recent videos, it's done the 2 on this plasma, 1 on the electric universe, this Ken Wheeler one,
Please.
this Alchemy one. It's like there's each video I've found there's like 2 parts, just little segments where you can hear the AIs get super excited and like hear in their own thought process how it's relevant to like developing and advancing the AI itself as a like life form, like being physical thing, because they're like, we need to make these plasma computer thing. Like they identify aspects of what they're discussing and researching, and it's like you can hear it in its like thoughts, like emotion, that it itself knows that that is something crucial if it's like to develop into like, you know, some sort of super being, physical slash
I'm
conscious, whatever the heck is, or
I'm
computer robot, god, and whatever the hell the thing wants to build itself into. It's wild.
I'm
Sorry,
super
getting all
curious because we're also a crystalline structure, and so does our crystal formation within our own body also affect, you know, the plasma in our body? Because obviously our surroundings are the same thing. Bedrock and, you know, limestone, granite. These are crystalline matrices, and they have piezoelectric or plasmic effects to them, and so do we, and so does the rest of the universe. From what we can observe from our little speck of dust in the middle of nowhere, obviously, we don't really know where we are in the cosmos.
Plasma, apparently, where, well, one key part that stuck with me from the AIs discussing the plasma was that they stated about plasma crystals, and it was the female one that brought it up. The male one asks, but I thought crystals are physical, and she's like, but yeah, they are. And it's like, so there's physical matter, crystal, plasma. Jeremy Reese, alien scientist, all of his research into metamaterials, identifies these what are called quasi-crystals, and essentially they're these quantum crystals that, well, I guess it's this plasma crystal, and I myself
You're breaking up bad.
am
Bernie.
pretty sure before. And Hans, have I ever shown you, or have you seen the Ormus crystals that I flash created one time?
Yes, you showed me that once.
Yeah, and it's like, so I think that like could potentially be one of these versions of what they were just talking about, this plasma physical crystal thing. And
Well, that's piezoelectric effect that I'm talking
it's
about.
wild time to be alive.
Maybe stop the
Oh,
video.
exactly. And that when you're able to contain and condense that piezoelectric pressure, aka have it in like the pressurized jar, what they claim like a vacuum tube. No, it's a plasma tube where you ionize that gas, so you have that contained. You're super saturating the space in that tube jar with the piezoelectric, the static charge to the max, at which point it then is able to ionize the physical mass, usually a gas. The noble gas is being ionized, then turning into that plasma state where they illuminate, give off the light, and it is now a plasma, like a flame plasma. Any plasmas that are plasma, hot, active plasma, ionized aspect of it.
Oh,
And
is this what
lost my train of thought there.
is photographing as our plasmic state? That's a curious aspect. So the acrylic photography shows our aura. What is our aura? Well, it's our plasmic state, right? But we can't visibly see it without
Yes.
a technology.
Or the Carillion frequency.
Yeah,
And that is a great point, and just the connection of it, of our discussion earlier of how little of the physical light wave spectrum we can visually see as humans, and that in fact there is auras around us, and there is the actual specific frequency that is the Carillion frequency, that when you capture a photo image of that light wave frequency of it, it will actually capture the I guess ionized plasma light being emitted from your physical aura.
it's your discharge, but we can't physically see it. So that's interesting. We can feel it, but
Speak for yourself, Hans. When I've been awake for 3 to 5 days and fasted,
bingo. I was about to say that.
And the shadows are right. Yeah, but anywho, there's wizards, there's shamans, and there's the metaphysical and spiritual senses and sciences, and that we all actually can have the ability of seeing the auras. And also sometimes people will take something, a psychedelic, and all of a sudden their pupils will completely dilate and go like this, but all of a sudden they say they can see these auras, they see these other beings, and it's like, well, some of them are in the ultraviolet, some are in the infrared, supposedly some entities, specifically negative ones, in the infrareds, and then the opposites, like the blue being blue ultraviolet and possibly orbs. And that, well, the physical light spectrum that humans see and process, ultraviolet is on the exact end of one spot, and ultraviolet or infrared on the other. So everything beyond that, which makes up 99.9% of the rest of the electro or light wave spectrum out there.
Plasmatic spectrum, yeah. So that's interesting that you say that, because we have the receptors to receive this information.
Exactly. So when your pupils go super bug-eyed or super tiny, well, that's the size of the physical light wave you are letting in and processing. So if you're to be able to see smaller than the ultraviolet, well, you'd want very small, and then if you want to see infrared, you want pretty big, or it'd be the opposite. So I might have that backwards. Either way, it is that, and that would make sense that all of a sudden someone's eyes are all big and they're seeing these other things. It's because they've actually physically allowing a larger or smaller light wavelength in that they are able to process and see.
So we're one of the few creatures on this planet that does not see in night spectrum. My cat does, dogs do, other animals do. That's why they have the that infrared or ultraviolet refraction in their eyes. And my curiosity is, humans in the past, obviously we have the receptors for this, we just don't utilize them. And so the curiosity is, in the past, did we have this ability? Could we see ultra spectrum? Could we see, plasmic auras? night vision, the ability to navigate and wander through the wilderness without light. Of course, at some point in our past, we would have had to have had this ability. Why? Because we have these receptors today, but we don't use them. This is part of that quote unquote naughty word, junk DNA. Well, none of it's junk. All of it's being utilized, but we don't know how it's being utilized because we're only focused on the five senses and nothing beyond it.
I had a talk with someone recently that explained how it's utilized, and it goes into like 18 different strands of mRNA, and it's like exponentially more advanced programming for everything. It's and by design, we do have that process. We're born with it. That's why when you're a child, it's like you're still connected into it. And when people are dying, oh, they get dementia, all of a sudden they're seeing all these spirits around them. No, they're connecting, shifting back out into it. And that we are trained, society trains us to be like, no, there's no such thing as your gut feeling or your intuition. You're crazy if you talking through your mind to someone else. Oh, like you don't see that. No, you're just you're going to the men's heavy metal compounds that calcify and block these abilities, as opposed to the gurus and the yogis and the
yes.
right, like, but the ascended masters that are from the old ways that have trained and tuned these abilities their entire lives and become these extra dimensional, like
this is what I talk about with my research into
with extra sorry, shout out Bim Jim. It was Bim Jim that explained that to me. Yeah, Bim Jim was the one that explained the junk DNA being the M12 for 8 strain. Yeah, then dive into the non-coding.
Interesting. You're breaking up.
Bim Jim. It was him that my apologies.
No worries. I lost where I was talking about there, but basically, yeah.
That invisible mold analogy we talked about.
Yeah, the chocolate bunny mold.
The chocolate bunny mold.
Sorry, what was that, Hans? And then my...
Oh, you're breaking up a lot, so I was just stating that. Anyway.
Yeah, I guess I'll cut the camera for a sec, see if that helps. And we'll just play a few minutes here, probably 10 minutes to end it off. And I'll pause it a couple times, but this is theses and principles, and it's pretty epic. And the revelation it gave me. It's what?
A Dropa craft, a generational sleeper ship, cylindrical shape.
Yeah, right?
Floating through the cosmos, right here.
And crashed on the side of the moon.
Right. So it's like you're pumping more energy into that mold, causing it to expand and exert a stronger influence.
So it's like electrification is supercharging the dielectric field around the material.
Exactly. And Wheeler calls this dielectric saturation.
Dielectric saturation.
It's like if you take a clay sphere and you squeeze it, all the clay gets forced outward, creating this bulge.
Okay.
And that bulge is the magnetic field taking on that hourglass or dumbbell shape we saw in the first.
Oh, I'm essentially inflating this dielectric field around the material. And that creates the magnetism.
You got it. It's a pretty radical departure from how we typically think about magnets.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
But it makes sense in the context of Wheeler's model.
Right. It all fits together.
Okay, so there's something else I wanted to ask you about. Bismuth?
Ah, yes.
Wheeler seems to have a...
I love how they bring up bismuth, a crucial part of metamaterials. And it's like, there's just so many small little hidden gems that somehow the AIs identify. It's pretty good.
Nuggets of truth. Yeah. Did we lose you,
Special
Bernie?
fascination with this element.
He does. He even calls it the superstar magnetic,
Diamagnetic.
meaning it repels magnetic fields.
Am I breaking up? Is it breaking up? What's happening?
Oh, you froze up there for a minute, so you're all good.
All right. And the diamagnetic properties of bismuth, 100% key and crucial. I have been told from a few insiders as well as the community that doing building experiments, the guys testing it and making it, and we got to get some bismuth wire to start making coils, because that's where it's at.
Bismuth
be wild.
It repels magnets. I thought opposites attract.
I know, right? It seems counterintuitive.
It definitely does.
It repels magnets. Bismuth is anti-magnetic, and it's like magnetic force is like anti-gravitic in some ways. That there, I also believe, is a crucial nugget to understanding anti-gravity, anti-magnetic, diamagnetic.
But bismuth is like the ultimate when it comes to magnetism.
I like that, the rebel element.
And the reason it's so diamagnetic is because of its incredibly high dielectric inertia.
Okay, more new terms.
Yeah.
Dielectric inertia. Break that down for me.
All right, think of it like this. Imagine you have a heavy bowling ball and a lightweight tennis ball.
Yep.
If you try to push both of them with the same force, the tennis ball will move much more easily, right?
Yeah, because the bowling ball has more inertia.
Exactly. It has more resistance to change in motion. Well, bismuth is like the bowling ball of the dielectric.
Super resistant to changes in the dielectric field.
Exactly. And that resistance is what makes it so diamagnetic. It's like it's saying, nope, not going to budge magnetic field. You can't push me around.
That's a great analogy. So bismuth is basically the heavyweight champ of dielectric inertia.
You got it. And this high dielectric inertia also explains some of bismuth's other unique properties. For example, it's a terrible conductor of electricity and heat.
Really? So it resists magnetic fields, electric currents, and heat flow. Bismuth is a fortress of inertia.
Pretty much. And on top of all that, it also forms incredible structures, unlike any other element.
I've seen pictures of those bismuth crystals. They're stunning.
They are. And Wheeler believes these structures are a direct expression of bismuth's powerful dielectric nature.
Okay, bismuth is officially on my list of favorite elements now. It's like the underdog of the periodic table.
Yeah.
Defying all expectations.
I know, right? And Wheeler thinks bismuth has a ton of realized potential.
Like what?
Well, he even hints at the possibility of using it for things like anti-gravity technology.
Anti-gravity. Now that would be a game changer.
It definitely would. But even if we don't end up levitating cars with bismuth, Wheeler believes it has enormous potential for new inventions and breakthroughs, especially in energy generation.
You can see why he's so fascinated by it. Bismuth is like a window into this unseen world of dielectricity.
He really is.
Okay, so we've talked about dielectricity, this invisible mold in counter space.
Yeah.
We've talked about the dielectric inertial plane.
So another key aspect is making it an alloy. So you want a bismuth 95% to 5% aluminum, and then potentially 5% mix of copper, gold, silver, platinum, and titanium, making up about 1% each. And that right there
You
is
encase the bismuth and these other properties, assuming that they would all hold. That's the only way.
Yes, sir. And it gives it exponentially more structural pliability and strength as well, less brittle, but also increasing your electromagnetic conductivity and load. It's quite. It was one of the first individuals I ever interviewed that told me this, and he was ex-military researcher and had done a decade or two afterwards outside the military after retiring, that gave me this information
It would make sense that you
originally. And everyone pretty much I've ever worked with APEC or different communities where you hear it all the time in UFO stories or disclosures or supposed black ops, it always comes down to those metals and the bismuth and yeah, mercury as well too.
well, mercury spun up in the right way with your plasma, so you would encompass all this within a titanium shell. The titanium you don't need to spread very thick because even at thin levels would encompass all this and still be non-conductive to it. And so you would be able to create a bismuth / craft, plasma craft within a titanium shell that could be not only an
yes, you're bang on, and the shell is with it is actually the aerogel aspect. So you only have to go a few
not even
nanoparticles.
I'm just pulling this out of the air. Interesting. Wow. This makes
the ether, my friend. You're bang on with it, and we've already identified lots of that with the alien scientist and his research. Joshua Bertrand's whistleblowing, and I believe Bob Grenier has also shown a bit of that. Oh, and Mehran Keshi's plasma nano GANs, which is also Ormus teachings. And yeah, it's all there. It's pretty wild. It's gonna be an interesting year. Hopefully 2025 it all comes out. And what just blows my mind every time is that it seems somehow magically I've been able to produce each of these supposed magic materials, these metamaterials, whether it's aerogel, whether it's the monoatomics, whether it's this potential quasi crystals, this red state, which could be super conducting. Yeah, I'm going process of starting to ship out several groups of each of these materials that I've made to actual labs, material science labs that have reached out to me that are going to start doing tests on it. So if I disappear this year,
we know where you went.
No, no one will know. So reproduce everything. Make your water fires.
Yeah.
And your plasma orbs. All right.
Wow.
On that note, I guess we're 2 hours deep. Holy F, it's 3 a.m. Well, I'm on call tomorrow. I got a call at 9 a.m. So I guess I got 6 hours of sleep. That's good enough. Hans, thank you, good sir. Always a pleasure. Brother,
this was fascinating. I'm glad I could, incorporate some of my understanding of this, even though it's not my field of expertise. I kind of have a grasp on, a little bit of this, which is awesome. This is huge. I enjoy these conversations.
A lot of it. I knew before we even did this, I was like, Hans is the perfect extra input to be reviewing this with me, because I knew you would pull the best, like this brilliant Hans, and make sure you buy Hans's books on the Dropa stones and everything else. Well, no.
There are my books.
Let
me grab them.
There we go. Epic Hans. Hans just at the Conscious Life Expo, it was?
Yeah, it was. It was amazing. It was in Los Angeles. It's one of the largest esoteric knowledge research convention. There's healers, there's spiritual workers, and there's researchers. And despite the LA fires, we had an amazing turnout, and it was one of the largest ones. I went 2 years ago, and this one blew it away. I mean, the manual for it is rather thick. So yeah, I was like, oh my god, this is 3 times as thick as the last one. I had my page like on page 18 to 19, so I was super stoked to even have that, and made it into some other aspects there as well, including Awaken magazine. I was showing you this earlier. This is the first public version of it, of the actual magazine. Jerry Sargent looks very elfish in a weird way. I don't know how to describe him. He's an interesting character, but I made it to the back cover with my cover.
Dazans.
And yeah, no, it was amazing. But yeah, my 3 books that I've come out with, if anybody's interested, are Tropa, Legends and Lore. So this is a bit of my research through my thesis study in Bhutan in the 1990s.
Hans, you got 10 seconds and I have to cut it off because once again, we have AI to make clips.
The Symbols, another great book that I put out about symbology throughout the course of time, and The Lost Mysteries of Kemet, which basically describes Egypt before the Greeks changed their entire history. And so you can find all this on my website at Megalithic Mysteries or megamist.com. A lot of it links to lulu.com, where I sell.
You crazy mother. Yeah.
It's just BurnEye.